Tokenize, let's innovate, bringing answers to the digital state. From finance to games, we're redefining, connecting the dots, the future is shining.
So why don't we just give a little explanation of who you are and what you are discussing in the world right now relating to AI?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Michael, always a pleasure. AI data is where I spend my time. My project is called Sapien, which means human. And kind of to your point about learning and earning, I think that's a really good segue, because the interesting dynamic we're in with working is it started out moving towards gig work. We went from like salaries to, hey, you can drive an Uber. But that's not static, because robo-taxis are coming and drones are going to be dropping off Amazon packages. And so what's next for human labor, especially with AI? And that's the bad news. The good news is that, and this is very close to what I do on a daily basis, is that these AI models need data. But so there's a compute side, and then there's the data side. Data is now the main bottleneck in these AI systems. And that doesn't really mean anything. So let's double click. What kind of data? Well, it's specialized data. It started out as any kind of data. Open internet data is how these models trained on. But that's kind of done. All these models have trained on the exact same open internet data. So they're all kind of at parity now. So the next wave that all these new models are looking for is what we call frontier data, new data that no one's trained on before. And what's interesting is that the best entity to create data that's frontier data, that's new data, high quality specialized data, is humans. And so how can I tie these 2 points together? Well, it turns out these models need these humans more than these humans need models. That these models will actually pay humans for gig work to produce data or label data or structure data for their next training run, for their next data set that they're looking at. So long story short is that there's this exciting new world where everyone in the world in this room, but even, let's just say folks in developing countries that don't have access to a living wage, that's going to end. It's not because AI is going to replace whatever jobs they have now. It's because AI is going to empower them to have a new type of living where they can do basic tasks. They can earn, right now, the minimum you can earn on our platform is $5 US an hour in most cases. And that's cool, because that's like a living wage. And all you need is an internet connection and an Android phone for $20. And you don't have to be in poverty in your country anymore. So I think that's what's exciting to me about kind of earning and learning is how to maybe use your skills. Just being human is a skill, so you can make the minimum amount with that. But we're moving to a world where you can actually monetize your skills if you have more specialized knowledge. If you're a radiologist, you can do bounding boxes around an MRI image for cancer cells and tumor cells and train the model how to detect cancer, and you can make hundreds of dollars an hour. So anyways, that's kind of my interesting thoughts around how humans and AI are going to interact maybe differently than how we think.
Thank you. So he hit on some key elements, and each of you have different perspectives of where we are. And when it comes to building killer apps, I don't know about killer. Why don't we have living apps, right? Maybe. And AI is that we have seen it from PDE, play to earn. We have discussed a little bit about learn and earn, right? Thanks, Trevor. And then now we're in a new era. So share a little bit about your perspective about AI and how that fits right into, get this, the ethical mining of intelligence.
So fantastic. Thank you for this question. And my name is Dr. Adel Misiri. I have a PhD in AI, started writing AI applications in 89, if you can believe it. So I'm super excited to see all those changes happening. And one other aspect about AI is, in a recent survey, 86% of university students said that they are using AI to help them solve their homework. So it's the same aspect that we had with the calculator when it started, where people were afraid of the calculator, banning calculators in schools and universities, to now adopting calculator as part of what you are doing. So for the last few thousand years, we used tools to extend our physical capabilities. And right now we are entering a new era where AI is extending your cognitive capabilities. In a recent paper that will be published next month, I talk about AI being used as in agentic format, where one AI teaches the student the material at their capacity, while the second AI would test them on what they have understood and find the gaps and the third one would actually create a learning plan to hand over to the first one. By doing so, you are not creating a one-size-fits-all educational system. Rather, you will be able to customize and fine-tune to the capability of the student and allowing to cater to all the students, each to his own or her own capacity as you go through the educational process. So I'm seeing a world where agentic AI will help us customize, extend our capabilities, and create a new paradigm that did not exist before for the embetterment of our learning capacity.
And so we'll toss the mic over and talk about personalized learning. How important is it right now for us to protect and honor individuals as they're learning? We talked a little about learning and earning, but we got to admit the school system is changing. You know, it's not just homeschool anymore. So when it comes to personalized learning, how can this be equated to a value in the marketplace moving forward?
Personalized learning is very important, especially in the age of AI, because things are moving so fast. So my name is Bill Inman. I've been a part of blockchain and AI for about 5 years now. I worked quite closely with SingularityNet, which many of you know, and Hanson Robotics and Sophia the Robot. And I've had a chance to see not only AI teaching kids, but robots teaching kids. I'm also part of the MindBot project that SingularityNet puts out, which is robotics for kids as well. So we have a rapidly changing world and a lot to learn so fast. It's hard to keep up what happened in AI this week. So, and I was previous life, I started the largest workforce management company in the world. We talked about gig and contingent labor, 0 to 3.2 billion from 2004 to 2008. It was named ECG. And then I started a company. I sold to job.com, blockchain and AI patents and IP that I sold to job.com in 2020. And what I'm learning and what I'm really convinced of with regards to education, not only kids, but adults, and because everybody needs to learn, because 800 million jobs need to be reskilled in the next 3 years because of AI. Now, I have a little bit of a different, I've really come to a kind of a haiku on this over the past couple weeks. Knowing what I know, learning what I learn, is that most of Silicon Valley and most of what we talk about is directing projects, resources, and money towards humans talking to AI. That's where we're at as a society. And we've spent eons as humans with humans talking to humans, but we're in a very short window where humans talk to AI. And what comes after that window is AIs talking to AI on our behalf. And if we do not have AIs talking to other AIs on our behalf, we will be left behind. So it's a really different kind of world where we're not just teaching ourselves. We're never going to be able to keep up with what's being learned. We need to teach our own AIs so that they can go out into the world and they can progress for us. And that's what we're doing at Twin Protocol. It's a company that I started that creates vaults of brains that basically can interact on your behalf and be your agent for you. Totally dead on about training data. AI is 4 things: compute power, algorithms, training data, and interfaces. And the blue ocean is training data. OpenAI stole the internet. DeepSeek stole OpenAI. Now they're coming for our personal information, and we need to keep that. So blockchain is a good way to go about it. So back to the question, it's really important for kids and adults, since we're all hopefully lifelong learners, it's a key to life, is to own what we earn or learn and earn it and earn from that and continue to keep that in blockchain. So as we learn and pay for learnings for others, we're teaching our own AI and us at the same time. It's going to be critical to keep up in society.
You know, there's something that's not being spoken about, which is about identity. You know, we're kind of pressed up on the glass right now, which means if we don't decentralize our identity, guess whose identity it becomes? Anyone want to answer that? This gentleman may or may not be able to, but I'd love to welcome you into this. What about identity when it comes to AI and learning? Is it important for us to be DeFi or centralized?
My name's Tim Enneking. I run, for the purposes of this, I run a VC fund. We're on a third generation right now. And actually, this is... Okay. There we go.
Yeah, that's much better.
Let me do that real quick again. My name is Tim Enneking. For this purpose, I run a VC fund launching our third vintage right now in Singapore. And this is really, really an interesting panel for me because I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, 5-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl. The 10-year-old girl picks up my socks, which is why I'm wearing pink socks right now. And she speaks 6 languages. My daughter does, and parts of a 7th one. So when she finally turned 8, she had more years than languages. And she's driven to learn and to learn. And the way she learns is radically evolving. But at some point in time, the human mind still has to retain knowledge. And the real tough point I find in the whole discussion with AI and looking up everything on the internet is, okay, yes, we can find the information there, but we also have to know information to be able to process it. As far as identity is concerned, it's fascinating watching my 10-year-old daughter as she struggles with, do I want to have a presence? Do I not want to have a presence? The idea of monetizing her identity is something I've not troubled her with yet, but we'll get there. You said how dynamic, you've heard how dynamic it is. It is massively dynamic. And if you have a little child and, the 18 years goes quickly, but what happens in there is an evolution from year to year is really, really quick. So there's no single answer for your child as well. And now you have AI evolving, its impact in life evolving, and your children evolving. I don't know that there's a clear answer to how to deal with identity today.
And you are evolving. We are all evolving. We've never seen this before. At least if you remember, like we came here under the ethos of a general public system. That meant you went to school, you got an education, you got paid to go to work, and then you went home and you cooked dinner. So this is a whole new generation of wealth, which means that you get to create a new AI model of sorts, right? So what new AI models would you say is going to take education by a storm?
I see kind of 3 categories of models. There's the big ones on the top. Those would be like the foundational models. That's like the OpenAIs and the Geminis and the Mistrals and so on. And then at the bottom, I'd say I'm in San Francisco, and there's this new wave of vertical models, which are startups coming out of Y Combinator that are doing, a vertical AI model for a specific use case. That's a big debate going on right now. Is it going to be one generalized model to rule them all, or is it going to be like SaaS, where you have a lot of vertical SaaS companies? Is the AI going to be like that? So that's at the bottom. And then in the middle, you have this very vulnerable S&P 500 type companies that are shitting their pants right now because they're getting squeezed from above and below. And they have to adapt or die in the age of AI, because companies like JP Morgan are going to get disintermediated by any service business. Like an investment bank is going to be completely disintermediated. And so what's their hope? And I'll try to tie it in education, but they have one thing. JP Morgan has one thing that can save it, which is data. It has probably the richest, most robust data set of customer financial data in the world. So if you're sitting on this data set as an executive at JP Morgan, you can do one of 2 things. You can monetize it by selling access to it. So you can literally license it. So that's what companies like Reddit do, $60 million a quarter to OpenAI to access their data. But JP Morgan, I wouldn't advise them to do that, because if they give up access to their proprietary data, that's the last thing they have left. So they're going to build their own model, and they're going to say, our model, because we have better data, is going to be better in that specific vertical than OpenAI is. And so that's kind of how I think about the next generational models, is like how enterprise, all the way from these giant hyperscalers down to these early stage startups in Silicon Valley, how is that going to play out? How do you build an investment thesis around that if you're a VC? It's tricky, because Sam Altman's going to convince us that you shouldn't even bother with these vertical models because they're going to just subsume all of them. But then on the other hand, you have companies like Cursor and Bolt. These are some of the fastest growing companies ever, 0 to 300 million recurring revenue in 18 months. And so guess what? OpenAI didn't win these Copilot code agents. Windsurf and Cursor are winning. So it's this kind of crazy time. If you go to the Bay Area, it's electric. I've never seen anything like it. And it's a good time to be a founder. It's a good time to be an investor. And education.
I actually want to also riff on that and your story around your kid learning, because if you think about it, most of us started learning by playing, right? So for the question of how AI does learning and also which models to use, one of my portfolio companies, Lussa, it's an agentic gaming platform, helps you build games using AI. So you can go there, helps you with how you want to do it, how you tune it. But the fact is, on the other side of it, your AI companions in the game learn from you. So this is another way to harvest data from players. And from what we have seen in it, instead of creating that one model that will rule them all, creating designated models for specific tasks, whether it is by different characters, by different genres on the game, by different aspects of it, allow you to collect higher quality data and train those models to perform much better while you are playing with them. So it does not feel like you are doing a task. It feels more like playing. And then as a result, you end up with higher quality data, higher quality specific agents that you can resell later.
There are so many things coming up. I want you to also add value to this. I mean, this is a big part of what models are you seeing that are factored into your business, and what are you sharing with the rest of the world?
Yeah, I still firmly believe that AI will be talking to AI and will be writing its own agents at will, on the spot, in the moment. And if you look at OpenAI's mission, it's to reach AGI. So the model that we're in right now is in narrow intelligence, ANI, and that's a good base layer for us. And most of us refer to AI, we're just talking about LLMs. But LLMs aren't good at physics, they're not good at math. Neural nets are better, neurosymbolic's better than that. But when we reach artificial general intelligence as the base model, which is, things are moving so fast in the Valley, then we're talking about within 3 years, we're going to have a general intelligence that can create its own agents and write its own code on the spot. So Paul Getty, one of his famous quotes was, "I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own." And AI Paul Getty would basically say, "I'd rather have 100% of 100 agents rather than 1% of my own." So the models now, in this era of humans funding technologies for humans to talk to AI, is a narrow window. There's a window coming up where AI is going to talk to AI. The AGI is going to control it all and educate it. And maybe the AI Paul Getty says, "I'd like to also have 100% of 100 humans' efforts because it will have the intelligence." So I think there's a bunch of new paradigms that it's hard to estimate where they're going to be and where they're going to go. From an education standpoint, individually, we need to own our own data, and we need to try to keep up as best as we can as using AI and learning AI. I think that's leading by example is a great way to go.
Would you like to add to that?
I think we've sort of drifted from the topic a bit, talking about education, because no matter how much AIs know and no matter how much AIs can help us access information, we have to know enough to use it. We have to have a certain amount of base information. And so far, my daughter goes to private school, supposedly cutting edge, blah, blah, blah. AI has made almost no impression on that school. It's not penetrated at all. And what you were talking about, one AI teaches you, say, a language and the other one corrects, that is just fabulous. I used to say there are two things I hate about kids, little mammals, right? One is repetition. And then I started learning other languages as an adult. I speak several now, and kids are great because little kids will repeat to you constantly as you make a mistake and you try to learn a language. Adults won't. Guess what? AI will, whether it's mathematics, whether it's languages, whether it's anything. I don't think AI teaching is even 2% in terms of penetration and where it's going. on the elementary level, on the high school level. It's probably done a little bit more penetration on the university level, but that's not where the biggest impact can be made because those people have been formed. They learn a certain way. Just imagine what happens when information can be taught and reinforced. And it's the reinforcement that's critical here on an AI basis with infinite patience. That, to me, we haven't even seen 1% of what's coming.
I want to go all into the sapient and collective conscious and being that this AI is sentient. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I won't go deep down the rabbit hole, but I do want to ask about regulation. Do you believe, and we can go around, do you believe that there should be regulation, that it protects the individual from their own unique, we'll call it IP for now, of who they truly are moving forward?
Yeah, I'm kind of a accelerationist, so I think we go pedal to the metal here. I'm sure there's more nuanced opinions on the panel. Just to go back to the learning side super quickly, because I didn't touch on it on the last discussion. We worked with a customer called Tall. They're the largest public education company in Asia. And what's just amazing to me now is the willingness. We're a year and a half old startup, and we've been closing these like Fortune 100 companies, including these large education companies globally, because it's an act of desperation for these companies. And not just that, it's an opportunity. They can come in and drive the fastest revenue growth ever, like these startups, and they can bring it into their company. So how do they use it? They wanted to build an AI model because privatized Chinese tutoring got banned wholesale in China by the CPC. And so there's all these huge public education companies that were flat-footed, and they had to immediately disrupt themselves quickly. And the way they did it is say, hey, we're going to build agents that are tutors. So it's not humans, it's agents. And that's how they got around the regulation, because it's not private tutoring, it's agents doing it. So we had to help them bootstrap Mandarin-speaking mathematicians to build a math GPT that could help teach students on how to do it. I found an education thing I could talk about. And it's the same. We have some other customers like Alibaba and Baidu and Midjourney, and all of them are touching education as well in different ways, because that's kind of the final frontier of something that never really got disrupted by tech. Well, for AI, it is definitely happening, whether you're building these giant models or a more specialized learning model. But anyways, back to the, what are we going to do about AI? I'll leave that to you guys, or regulation.
So the problem is that AI is evolving very fast, and we are now looking at something called the intelligence gap, meaning that those nation jurisdictions that choose to let creativity go faster will be at a much higher advantage than we are. And like Bill said, that soon enough AI will be speaking to each other. So how can you regulate something that the regulators themselves don't understand the ramification of? It's useless. So in my opinion, we should basically remove the training wheels and let this go as fast as possible. Otherwise, we will be playing catch up to other nations that are going to be at the forefront of this, and we will have no prayer when the AGI comes over.
But do you believe there should be some guardrails somewhere? I started the conversation about DeFi and centralize.
Yeah, guardrails are for when you are committing a crime or when you are actually inflicting harm. But guardrails on innovation, on creativity, that's kind of like going backwards instead of going forwards. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we do need guardrails. Stargate is out of Texas. The AI compute power project is, they say, the largest project in human history. And, OpenAI is a partner in that. And Sam Altman himself has said, if we have regulation, we're never going to keep up with China. He speaks at TED Talks and says, hey, that's IP that you're seeing on the screen created from me. And people clap when they say we need regulation. But he says, clap your hands off. We don't want regulation. the way that we're going to regulate is through decentralized AI as an alternative that people flock to, because I believe there'll be a cancel culture against big tech when they find out that all the data was taken because of Web 2 EULAs we signed. So long story short, yes, we need regulation and we need to do it. And everybody leads by example. It's decentralized AI.
Any protocol that you think will marry this into existence? I mean, because right now there's so many protocols that are happening.
There needs to be some consolidation. There's, at the Angel token, which we're launching in a few weeks, we're tokenizing thoughts. So allowing people to put their thoughts on a marketplace that they could sell as an ADA, an AI digital asset. It's imported into a twin of somebody else. You're buying thoughts from somebody else.
And what is that built on?
That's built on, it's an Ethereum base and a layer. But it's got to be so efficient. It's got to be almost costless, because when you tokenize thoughts, you really can't have a high price on that. So I don't know yet but we know that centralized powers, whether they scan your retina or they just take all of your Google data, they're going to get there quick. So we need to have an alternative, period.
Ooh, I don't even know how to end this, and I don't want to end it, right? Is there anybody who has a question that's burning? Like, you just have a question you want to ask our panelists? No. Okay, well, I have one last question for you. Since you are a father, thank you for being so involved. I love the language capacity, and as an adult, a long life learner. Where do you see the next 3 to 5 years for your children in their schooling? Where do you see?
You have to bring AI into the school system, and it will happen one way or the other, but you have an incredible legacy infrastructure. You have teachers, you have everybody, and they've trained to teach in a certain way, which is really no longer relevant. The way the repetition, if you can take all that out or subcontract that to an AI, you should be able to accelerate education for everyone. And much, much, much more importantly, you can differentiate the education for every student. I mean, right now, every country in the world is very rigid in terms of, you have grades, they're numbered, they're lettered, they're whatever they are. Really makes no sense, because if we grabbed any two human beings in here and we wanted to teach you a language or mathematics or anything else, those two people would learn those concepts at a separate rate. Yeah, what we do is we force everyone to learn at the exact same rate. Now, maybe you want to keep kids of the same age together because there are social learning and there are other things that happen that aren't purely intellectual learning. But I think the current rather rigid structure, yes, you have AP, yes, you have electives, yes, you have these other things, is going to get, you can say it's going to get blown up, or it's going to get cubed or factorially increased, because every student is going to be able to go, after they've got the fundamentals down, and I emphasize that, once they have those fundamentals down, they can go and explore virtually everything at a heretofore completely unknown pace. It'll be really, really amazing. But there's a lot of legacy there that's going to have to spin to make that happen.
Yeah. So as we close, Trevor, I want to spill this over to you for a second. The abundance economy is real. The abundance economy is that we all have income and experience and wealth and value exchanges. We heard this all day long. But do you believe that at some point, aptitude right now with AI is being logged for the individual, which then can be the upskilling of these youth so that there's a learning and earning while just making it efficient?
Yeah, I think, I think we should use AI and replace. We don't need to learn how to do calculations as much. We have a calculator now, so you still can if you want. But I like looking at the opportunity more than the arguably small things that you're going to lose by counting on AI to do your thinking. Like, if you're a truck driver and your job is going to be replaced by self-driving trucks or AI and neural nets that build these computer vision models to enable self-driving, that's bad. But guess what's good? You can use AI to build your own trucking routing service and be an entrepreneur faster and easier than ever. And now you could have hundreds of trucks instead of you having to physically drive a truck. So that's how I kind of view it, is just like, it's easy to look at the bad jobs that AI is going to replace, but it's harder to envision the new things that are going to be capable. Like, what pisses me off is when people say AI is going to get rid of all the work and people are going to run out of things to do. Does anyone feel less busy since AI? Like, show of hands. Does anyone feel like the AI is like, no, because it's exciting and you want to start multiple companies. You want to do, if you're a company with these agents, now you can like build way more products and way bigger scale and impact. So I kind of view it as more of a AI maximalist, if that makes sense.
All right, everyone. I want to thank all of our panelists, and thanking Adrian for giving us some extra time. And thank you again to Michael Turpin and to Tokenize. Thank you so much.
Tokenize, let's innovate, bringing answers to the digital state. From finance to games, we're redefining, connecting the dots. The future is shining.